motivation, yeah, to get through the day. Just tune in, cause we'll make a way. Positivity. So if you need empowerment to make a change, just start with today. And tune into Pancake Monday. Pancake Monday with Pastor OJS. OJS. Oh yes. Oh yes. Pancake Monday. Pancake Monday with Pastor OJS. OJS. Oh yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, welcome to another edition of Man Cave Monday. I am so excited to be back in this space and to have you back in this space with us, wherever you are, wherever you're watching from right now. I'm appreciative and I'm honored that you would share this space with me each and every week. If you don't mind, take a moment and share this conversation. I promise you, you're going to be blessed by it. So I want the people in your circle to be blessed by it as well. Doesn't take but a few seconds to hit that share. And then when you get a chance, follow us on YouTube as well, the Pastor O'Jermaine Simmons YouTube channel. We try to upload these conversations as they happen so that you can rewatch them, whether you're on Facebook Live or on YouTube. Still trying to build a platform. I got like 20 whole followers on YouTube right now, so I'm about to blow up. Anyways, tonight I am excited and I'm honored, quite frankly, to introduce to you all a very dear person in my life and in my membership at the Jacob Chapel Church. But she is Sergeant retired Wileen Footman, United States Army. I'm just excited to have her, and we're going to be talking about worship and warfare tonight. But welcome, ma'am, to the Man Cave.
Hi.
That's about all y'all gonna get, but we're gonna pull some stuff out of her tonight. For those that don't know, Wileen, of course, is a member of our church. She helps give leadership to our youth ministry, getting our parents energized. She works with our outreaches, our garden project. She, of course, is a trustee at our church as well. But just an all-around good member and good person. I love her family. And so I wanted to bring you, ma'am, into the Man Cave. As I said last season, it's not just men that can come in the Man Cave. Women are welcome too. So I wanted to invite you in to just kind of talk about your journey a little bit. But for those that don't know you, just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and you know what you do now.
Okay, so I am Tallahassee homegrown.
Whole team.
Yeah, I grew up what used to be the country off of Centerville Road, but it's so built up now that it's no longer the country. It's so busy. And I've been here all my life. So what I do now, as far as employment, I've been with the state almost 20 years now. I served in the military a little over 10 years. And that's it. I'm a mother, I'm very family oriented. I love being a mother. I have the most beautiful daughter in the world, Savion. I love you, girl. And so that's pretty much it. I'm a sister. I'm an aunt. I'm an auntie,
All those
I'm
things.
active in my community. So yeah, it's just like all those things. Like all of the above.
All of the above.
That's
What does your community mean to you? I've been a part of the Tallahassee community now for almost 17 years, but you being born and raised here and you've seen it change, you've seen it grow. What does your community mean to you? I like to call you the queen of the South Side
Oh,
because you're always sharing information about community resources that are out there. You yourself are a resource person to the community, and so what does your community mean to you?
my community means a lot to me because for me, my community is a part of my family. My neighbors, people who own businesses, just my community whole is my family is like an extended family to me. So I treat my community the same way I treat, those in my family. They mean a lot because when my community does good, I do good. If my community is doing bad, I'm doing bad. Because I am my community, and my community is me. So that's how I really feel about my community.
Wow. And you chose the South Side, no?
I did. I did. Well, I did. Well, growing up, we moved around, so I've lived on every side of Tallahassee that there is. And yeah, I chose to have a house built here in the Greater Bond neighborhood. Um, yeah, it was an opportunity that presented itself, and I took it, and I'm still here, 15
Absolutely.
years later.
And we're grateful for that. The community loves you. You know, the church certainly loves you, and of course, that's the context that I first encountered you and your family. But it was only recently, I would say, in the last 5 years or so, that I really began to pay attention to you and your narrative, and all the things that you've done in this world. And I think it might have been during one of our Veterans Day celebrations. We always shout out our veterans in November and, show y'all love during that time. And so I found out, that you were retired Army. And I'm like, her? Really? Like, wow. Because you and I had never really interacted much. You did a good job of kind of staying,
Not too good.
yeah, well, the Lord had work for you to do, so you couldn't hide from me forever. But talk to me about that. Like your decision to go into the United States Army. Like what was that for you?
So, honestly, I joined the military, because I wanted somebody to pay for my education. That's why I joined. But eventually, it evolved into something else, which is another community in my life. I love my military family, but for me, I've always been spontaneous. I guess you could say spontaneous. Like I'll try things,
Yeah.
and this was just something that I decided to try,
Wow.
simply for the benefit factor. But once I got in, it was just it was different. I learned a lot. I grew. I met so many people. I traveled. It was an awesome
What's
experience.
some of the places you've been?
Oh goodness. So I did 2 tours. I did a tour in Iraq. I did a tour in Afghanistan. Um, I call Afghanistan my career killer because that was the tour where I had, I was injured, and I had to medically retire out. So, but I've been a lot of places. I've been to Germany, Switzerland, a number of places in the United States. But it was awesome because I love to travel. So it was like everything I like to do just wrapped up, and I got paid to do it.
Why not? Why not? So shouts out to the dog. Let's not act like the dog is not in the background. Shouts out to her. This is what happens when you do live TV. The dog might think I'm in your house or something. That's why she going crazy like that. But I can really appreciate your energy and your passion about it, being able to travel, being able to see different things. Now, you said you've been to Iraq and Afghanistan with 2 tours. Was that Iraqi freedom? Was that, I don't want to age you, so I wouldn't dare say Desert Storm because neither one of us are old enough to see Desert Storm. But it was Iraqi freedom. What operations
Yes.
were they?
Yes, it was Iraqi freedom. And man, you're gonna try to make me remember what Afghanistan was. I cannot think of it off the
Yeah,
top of my
and
head.
that's
That was
fine.
fine.
That's fine. We're going to talk a little bit about Afghanistan because there's a lot going on in Afghanistan today, even now,
Yeah.
20 years later. It's going down out there. But I will confess to you and people who have heard me preach, and even those who may have read my first book can know that this is where I was at the time. I have always had difficulty with the idea of women fighting in battle. And I'll tell you why. And I think you and I might have even talked about this privately. I've always seen men as protectors and providers for the family. And so I always use the example, if somebody kicked my door in at 2 in the morning, I don't want to send my wife to go see about that. I feel like me as the man should go see about that. So if somebody's going to lose their life that night, it's going to be me first. So at the same time, there are literally women in my own family. I have aunts who are retired military and cousins who are currently female military. So I'm trying to get straight in my mind, this idea that yes, women can serve, obviously, because y'all have done it. A woman is our vice president. She's one heartbeat away from being commander in chief. So as a woman and as a black woman in military, just kind of talk me through that.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to start with that because my experience, and I can only speak on my experience as
Yeah.
a black woman in the military. I can never recall a moment where I was treated as less than. It
Yeah.
was more so, hey, you're here, and by you being here, that means you could do it. So you have a job, do your job, and that was just in a nutshell. That was my experience, and
Yeah.
because one, I'll never allow anyone to ever think I'm weak. That's just me,
Yeah.
and I know I know I'm a strong woman. I know I have a strong personality, um, and that's just what it was for me. And one of the things that I did do while I was in, for other females, I did my best to encourage them because some of them had bad experiences, with male soldiers and male leadership, but I didn't have that experience. I'm just thankful that the leadership that I did have, they were, um, they contributed to my learning and my growing. They didn't try to hold me back. They didn't try to degrade me. They didn't, mistreat me or anything. But I just thank God that I didn't have a negative experience
Yeah.
like some of the females that I encountered.
And it's so important what you say as we're talking to retired Sergeant Wileen Footman, United States Army, one of the best church members that I have. I think it's very important what you're saying, and even just the visual of seeing someone like you, or for that matter, a Kamala Harris or a Michelle Obama, or name the CEO, of various companies who are women, because it speaks to what is possible for you as a black woman to be able to achieve that. It speaks to what's possible for those very same girls and even your own daughter who would watch you and to see in her own experience, that a woman can do it. And there's no reason why you can't. That's where I am these days with it. I've never been, against a woman doing it, but I had to justify in my mind, okay, if I'm supposed to be a protector, I feel kind of, like less than a man if I don't step up. But on the field of battle, you never know who is going to be the one that has to save your life. Or for that matter, whoever is most capable of leading, because we're going to talk about you as a sergeant and how you got there. Whoever is more capable of leading at that point, if it's a man or a woman, let them have at it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I thought I was going to get a little bit more help than that. So,
But I mean, yeah, I mean, I totally agree. If you're capable of doing it, then, do it. And no one should have the right to keep you from doing it. Just because I'm a woman, it doesn't mean that I'm weaker. We
absolutely
all
not.
bring different things things to the table because we all go through the same training. You know, we're trained as soldiers first, and then we're trained in our MOSs, which is our jobs.
Gotcha.
So, and at any given moment, you know, you may have to do the unthinkable.
Yeah.
So, and you have to be able to do that. If not, then you shouldn't be there.
Shouldn't be there. And
Yeah.
I'm one of those people that didn't need to be there. My father gave me three options. You gonna go to school, you going to get a job, or you gonna go to the military. And I knew I wasn't built for that. So I'm like, yeah,
You
let me
could have did
go ahead
all
on
that
the
in the
college.
military.
Say
You could have
again.
did all that in the military.
See,
You could have did all that in the
I don't
military.
like the hours. Y'all got up too early. I didn't need nobody hollering in my face and making me do push-ups and all of the physical rigor that came with that. It's the same reason I dropped out of the band. I was telling Dr. White that when I interviewed him. I was like, I wasn't built for marching band. I was built for jazz band. You know, we wore tuxedos and bow ties, and it was indoors under the air conditioning, playing my trumpet. Not out on no field in the heat, getting yelled at and called a crab. I wasn't doing it. So I have a great deal of respect for those of you who are in military. I want y'all to go ahead and share this conversation. It's going to get deeper. It's going to get heavier. We just kind of scratching the surface right now. How did you arrive at the level of sergeant? Because that's obviously higher than a private. It's a pretty big deal. How'd you get there?
Um, so, you know, basically, like everything else, there are levels. You know, you have training, you have time in service. You definitely have recommendations because if you can easily be said, it can easily be said, no, you're not ready. And you know, you continue to go through training and you know whatever it is that your leadership
Mm-hmm.
decides for you to do. But for me, it was just training and learning and growing, just like in any other professional field. And you know, I have I actually lost weight one time, but that's another story.
Yeah, next
I
man
was
cave.
really
We'll talk about that.
I was really expecting to retire out at E8, which is the first sergeant, but that didn't happen. I settled for E5, but it was just all about you know just being a leader and knowing how to lead and just being up to the job. You know.
Absolutely. And so in 2001, America was attacked. The towers came crashing down, and we were told by our then commander in chief that Iraq did it, basically. They got weapons, they gonna hit us again. You know, everybody joined hands and sang God Bless America. Everybody started wearing flag pins, and we about to go out there and get them. We about to hit them up. You as a soldier are under orders. You're following orders at this point. So whether it's, you know, more recent years or when it first started, there are many of us who feel like that war was unjust in the first place and we should have never been there. But you as a soldier who was following orders, we'll talk about what you saw when you got there, but just initially, wow, I'm getting ready to go to war. What was that like?
That was it was scary. Fear of the unknown, not knowing what was going to happen once we got there, not even knowing that we were going to come back. That talk about to live every day like it's your last day, but it was scary. It was scary. You know, even once we touched ground, you know, it was scary. You know, just because we made it there, it didn't change the reality of the fear that it's a possibility that today is your last day. So it was scary. You know, I had been away from my family before, but that was totally different, you know, because it's one thing to travel to Miami to go to the beach, you know, and have a good time, but it's another thing to go and be dropped off, you know, in a war zone. Um, so it was
Yeah.
scary for me and my family.
How was your faith challenged during that time?
Um,
You got closer to God, I imagine.
yeah, definitely with Afghanistan, Iraq, not so much. No, you know, that just being honest, you know,
Yeah.
you know, my pastor at the time, he sent me off with his Bible that never read, but
That's real
I
talk.
mean, because I just wasn't there yet, you know. I mean, my faith. I mean, I had faith that I would make it home because the reality for me was that, you know what, we're here. You know, we weren't bombed, we weren't, anything. So it was like, oh, look, as far as I'm concerned, they probably just dropped us off in Arizona or something, you know what I mean. So it was just,
Right.
it just didn't seem like a reality. But then the reality came when the bombs started dropping, and it was like, okay, yeah,
This is
this
happening.
is real. Like this is happening. Like I'm seeing things explode in front of me, and so it was like, okay, I want to go home. Just, at this point, send me home. I didn't sign. I signed up, but I really didn't sign up for this. I didn't. I mean, this just got real.
Yeah.
So it was definitely
Mm.
eye opening. It was eye opening. Just
How?
even thinking back on it now, even with our leadership,
Mm-hmm.
um, and our battle buddies, all of us just trying to comfort each other and saying, "Hey, look, we're gonna get through this." Just so faith did kick in. It's like we're gonna get through this, and they gave us some dog tags, or really ID tags, but it had scripture on them. And I wish I would have thought about it, but I would have got it. I can't even remember. It was a song, but yeah. And so it was like we looked at that every day, and we read that every day, and we just pushed forward. Just counted down the
Yeah.
days to get home, and just prayed to get home safely in one piece.
So you've seen death up front, up close. Um,
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
seen,
yeah.
injury of others. Even like you said, when the bombs start dropping, that's when it gets real. I don't want to dig too deep because I know it can be traumatic to relive. But what of that experience can you talk about? Because you're a survivor. You're a survivor.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Um, I think I could talk about any of it. You know, because it played a major part in my relationship with God. Literally like pushed me, into Him. But so I don't know. Where do you want to start?
Any
I don't
any
know
of
where
it
you
that
want
you
to
want to
start.
talk about, just the floor is yours.
I don't know where to start. I need a prompt. Give me a prompt.
I'm gonna give you a prompt. The prompt is the bombs are dropping, people are being injured. Were you yourself injured in on the field of battle? Like, let's talk about it.
Okay. Yes, Afghanistan. Yeah, yeah. June 3rd. Actually, a couple of weeks before that, around Memorial Day, we had a run over, and it was so scary. They put us on shoot to kill orders.
Now
We were in these
what's that?
bunkers. That means when you ask someone to identify themselves and they don't, you just shoot to kill.
Okay.
Because the run over dealt with suicide bombers. So they had got into our camp, and it was dark because we practiced light discipline. So it's not like how it's lighted up here. It was like dark, dark. And most of the times you just saw a figure, so you really couldn't tell who it was. And everybody had fatigues, whether they were military or not. So if they didn't identify themselves accordingly, then we were on shoot to kill orders.
Mhm.
And I remember being in that bunker, and my prayer was, Lord, I just want to make it home. I said, I got this beautiful daughter at the house. Even if I don't make it with legs and arms, I need to get back to her because she needs me. And that was my prayer. And he is good. He saw fit. Even though I was injured, a couple of weeks later, I was injured in a rocket explosion. And
Mm.
the rocket landed within 5-10 feet from me and my battle buddy.
Wow.
So, but I made it home. It was it was a traumatic experience. But what was so interesting was that I wasn't focused on me. I was focused on finding my battle buddy. So I think, in a sense, I've always been a caring person for people, a server, because I love serving people. I love seeing people do good, but even in my own injury, I was looking for her. I just needed to know that she was okay.
Wow.
Um, so yeah,
All
so
right. So I want to tie that together. As we're talking to Sergeant retired Wileen Footman, United States Army, Sunday school teacher, trustee, youth leader, all around good child of God. Um, that battle buddy scenario, and it just so happened that your battle buddy was another woman. Talk to me about how women take care of each other just in life in general. You got sisters, you're a mom to a girl, your nieces are beautiful. I love your whole family. But talk about how women take care of each other.
we definitely we nurture each other. We encourage one another. I do my best to be influential. In a positive way. Um, Now sometimes we might get a little greasy.
I love it. Yes, yes, yes. Shouts out to all the greasy people. Yes.
Yeah, we'll get a little greasy. We're like, is this the time to be greasy? But for the most part, the women, the my circle of women, we are always encouraging each other, lifting each other up, supporting each other,
How
praying for
important
one
is that?
another.
How important is
Yeah.
that? Because there are some women in the spirit of housewives of pick your city, women hitting each other, slapping each other, throwing drinks on each other, hating on each other, jealous of each other. With that dynamic that we know is in the world, how important is it that women uplift each other?
It's important. It's important because that, you know, um, I'm just thinking back on my own personal experience when I came home after Afghanistan. Um, my mother, Lord, my mother and my sisters, they were here when I came home. And the support that they gave me, even not understanding what it is that I was going through, and what I had been through and what I had to face up ahead,
Right.
they still were there. Even when I got a certain kind of way,
Mm-hmm.
I became, um, hmm, I, I was angry. I was mean. I was, man, I was all of the above,
Right, right, right.
that had nothing to do with good, but they stuck in there. They stuck in there as long as they could. And then one day I found myself by myself, not even knowing who I was
Hmm.
anymore. And then I realized the damage that I had done to my relationships with my sisters and with my mother. And it was like, guys, I, that's my support system, like they're on my life. And had they not loved on me the way that they did, I really don't know where I definitely wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. I'll probably be somewhere out on the streets, some kind of attic or something like that, because that's just how bad I had got. And even though they pushed through. They pushed through. I thank God for them because they pushed through even with threats. I mean, it was
Yeah.
the mind is terrible. Boy, the mind
Yeah, and I was gonna
is
ask you
yeah.
about that because we can talk about the physical, damage that you incurred as a result of the rocket, going off right there by you, but the mental. And I think with our soldiers, in general, we got to be more aware of you all's mental health after, because you've seen so much.
Yes.
You death all around you, battle. It's a war. It's warfare, and it becomes
Yep.
spiritual warfare with all of this going on around you. And if you don't have a prayer life, if you don't have a supportive circle, or even when you do have those things, the mind, as you said, the spirit can literally be under attack, and anything can trigger it. Any experience, even for those of us who haven't served in military, they're just experiences that we have that can be triggered, and you're
Mm-hmm.
expected to be all right all the time. You're
Yep.
expected to be stable. You're expected to make the best choices. But as you testify, and I thank you for your transparency, that's not always the case.
Right. Because again, like I said, like mentally, when I looked in the mirror, whenever I did look in the mirror, because I had even stopped looking in the mirror because I didn't even recognize who I was when I came back home. I mean, it got to the point where things were happening in my mind that the only way I could get it to stop was drinking. And not just like a wine a day, keep the devil away. It was like a bottle of 750 milliliter New Amsterdam straight kind of drinking
Wow.
that I just couldn't cope with the things that was happening in my mind, and that was the only way I could quiet whatever it was, and it got so bad to the point where I remember in the middle of the night one night, um, I called my oldest sister and I just asked her I begged her to come get my baby because I just didn't know who I was. I didn't know if my baby, if my daughter woke up, and she was crying because she had a bad dream. Like I just didn't know how I was going to react to her crying, because of whatever was happening in my mind. So when I recognized certain things, I acted on them,
Yeah.
and it was that moment. My oldest sister, I tell you no lie, she said, "You need to go to church." She said, "You really need to come to church." And at this point, when I was in Afghanistan, she had joined Jacob Chapel. She was like, "You really need to come to church because," she said that she was like, "because he is preaching what you need to hear in this moment." And that's what
Wow.
she told me.
Wow.
And I was like, I ain't going to church. But
Yeah.
and I thank God for Savion because my sister took her to church while I was in Afghanistan. So every Sunday morning, Savion would wake me up, whenever she was home, and she would wake me up so we can go to church. And she'd be like, "Church, like, come on, mom, church,"
Let's go.
Until one day I got tired of it, and I was like, "Okay, let's go," and that was the beginning, of what I can honestly say is a very beautiful relationship that I have with God, and even today I'm just in awe of what he's kept me through, because it's been some things, all the way up to just last year. But it's just, yeah,
Yeah.
when I look back.
Yeah. When I
Yeah,
look back over my
yeah,
life and think things
yeah,
over. Um
exactly.
and
Oh,
and
but so I did church. I did church. I went to church, but I also went to counseling. Counseling was a big counseling was helpful because I was able um, to to put into words, whether it made sense or not, what was in my head. Um, but one of the things I did not like was the medication that they would. I'm just gonna say it, that would be thrown at you
yeah.
for these diagnoses, and it's like I had so many diagnoses, and they
Mm-hmm.
wanted to tie a medication to it. And I remember you preached a sermon about drugs and chemical imbalance, and it made me think. And I told my doctor, I was like, listen, I don't have a chemical imbalance problem. I have a rocket problem. Like I was injured in a rocket explosion, and that had nothing to do with medication. Now you want to give me like some muscle relaxers to deal with the physical pain, fine. But as far as everything else, like I wasn't sleeping, and I tried every sleeping medication that they gave me, and it didn't work. But what did work was one day I walked through my house, and I prayed, and I invited God into every room in my house, and told him well, not told him, asked him to remove anything out of here
Yeah.
that he didn't place here. And that night, I slept like a baby and been sleeping like one ever since.
Wow.
So yeah, it's. I'm telling you, I'm just so in awe of the things that he's done in my life and the things that he's doing, and I'm definitely excited about what he's doing because yeah, when mentioning that warfare, it was a spiritual warfare. And as I look back, I realized that it's moments like this that the enemy didn't want me to get to. It's moments like when I pour into my daughter and we do devotional, because had I not, um, had I not, I guess you could say, got it together, I wouldn't be sitting at the dining room table having devotionals with my daughter. We wouldn't be praying together. We wouldn't be going to church together. So all the things that empower me and that strengthen me to be a Christian woman, I wouldn't be doing those things.
Yeah.
And I just, yeah. So when I look back, it's just like,
Mm.
yeah.
I hope and I pray that y'all are being helped by this conversation, that you're being empowered like I am. I'm fighting back tears right now because I know some of the journey. And we hadn't even talked about Savion yet. I know a lot of the journey and a lot of the backstory to how you got to where you are now. And there was a Bible verse that was talking about Jesus, and he was actually speaking, and he said that a prophet is without honor in his own country. And he was saying that in the context of him being rejected or maybe even just ignored or dismissed by his own people. And so I am proud to have such awesome people right in my immediate space. I interview people in other states and other, spaces far, far away from here. But I also want the world to know that I got some dope people like right here in my own membership and in right here. And I want the world, and I need Tallahassee to understand that we got some dope people in our town. And we can't let, because this story's going to be told in other spaces, bigger platforms than my own, but I don't want the locals to take for granted the diamond and the jewel that we have, in you. And I hope you don't mind me saying it that way. But you're a pretty dope person. And to embrace this testimony and be so transparent the way that you are and talking about your faith, it's really amazing to hear.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, you are a mother, as we've sort of talked about, to an awesome, dynamic daughter, who has her own testimony.
Yes.
As a child, she was dealing with and has dealt with heart issues, but that faith journey and what that may have done. Just talk to me about all of that. I don't want to tell the story for you. Just talk to me about all of
Uh,
that.
you know, um, man, one of the best moments in my life was, finding out I was pregnant. And the worst was 3 months later, finding out that her heart wasn't growing. But I thank God that they were able to see that in the womb, because when Savion was born, she wore more than 7 pounds. So she looked like any other baby that was born. She looked healthy. She was vibrant. She was fussing when she came out, of course, but she didn't look like she had a heart condition. And and it was so interesting because her team of doctors, they were in awe of her. Like, I can't even, I'm not even over exaggerating when I told you that when you looked in the NICU window and you saw her amongst these other children that had medical conditions, she just looked like she didn't belong there. She was just, even, the doctors was like, this is not the baby with the heart condition. There's no way possible that she has a heart condition. But she was born with a heart condition, hypoplastic left heart syndrome with Shows complex. And so it required her to have open heart surgery within the first week she was born. Because usually what happens with those babies when they go home, before they were able to detect it, they would die within the first week of being born, because they just didn't have the capabilities to catch it while they were in the womb. But thank you, Lord, that they were able to with Savion. And so that, for me, that did something to my faith, because it's like, I'm bringing this life into the world, and there's nothing I want more than to be able to experience motherhood for all the days that I can, and to be faced with the fact that it's a possibility she'll be dead shortly after I give birth. It's just like, I didn't sign up for that.
Right, right.
um, so yeah, so we definitely Me and her dad, I definitely did some praying, but
Yeah.
I can't even understand it. It's hard trying to explain God because even knowing what we were going to face, I just continued to live. I continued to go to school. I actually finished a degree while I was 8 months pregnant with her. I still traveled. I just lived.
Yeah.
And I talked to her, and I'm like, you know what? I don't care what them doctors say. I just didn't want to believe the report that they were giving. And so when she was born and she did have to have the surgery, it was just like my heart was ripped open. And because we just didn't know which way it was going to go, because her heart, when a baby is born, their heart is like smaller than a quarter. So
Yeah.
that's why I call her Dr. Wise, the man with the anointed hands, because you got to be anointed to do what he does. And he's done it thousands of times. And so that was
Wow.
that contributed to my faith walk, because of
Yeah.
course all throughout the years there's been doctor's appointments and there's been more surgeries
Yeah.
but God is so good because I
Yeah.
always say she doesn't look like what
She,
she's going
she
through
don't
because
look
every
like.
time she
Yeah.
don't,
And
and I love it.
and we've
And
prayed over the years. She's given her testimony to the church,
mhm,
in her youth messages. Like, it's common knowledge around the chapel family that Savion is a miracle. And even
yep,
times when she had to have little procedures or something may have gone wrong with one of the devices or whatever, like her faith was strong.
yeah,
And she is such a resilient young lady, and to see her grow,
yes.
shouts out to Savion. I mean, I'm sure she's watching. She's probably gonna text me in a few minutes for talking about her. But she's an amazing testimony, and how her faith has grown. And let's give credit where it's due now. You have helped her maintain her faith by the things that you mentioned earlier. Y'all pray together. Y'all do Bible studies
Yep,
together. And I keep telling parents, it starts at home. I ain't the pastor at your house. You're the first
no,
pastor at your house, parent. And so
yeah,
that, I give you kudos, and I even give your sister kudos as well, for laying that foundation while you were away, in Afghanistan. And then they made you come to church when you came back. Thank God for that.
yep, yep. So that's
Wow.
yeah. So those are little checkpoints, throughout my
Yeah.
faith journey, and I keep getting them, which is good, because the more checkpoints I go through, my faith it levels up,
Level up.
and I love it. I love it because one of the things I tell Savion about is you know having her own relationship with God. I'm like, yeah, right now you have your mother's God. I said, but eventually you're gonna have to have your own God, have your own experience, your own relationship with Him. I
Yeah.
said, in the moment you realize that, you're gonna be like, oh, this is what my mama was talking about. Because that's as a parent, that's what I'm leading her to, her own relationship
Yeah.
with Him, because it's going to be important, especially for her, just like it is for any of us.
Any of
And
us.
and I just, because I remind her, the more she's in His presence, be mindful of the things that she says, because her words have power, and I want her to be positive as much as possible, and influential among her friends, and about that, I'm telling you, God is so awesome. Listen, Savion has a group of friends.
Yeah.
I prayed for these friends years ago. I'm telling you, if I can go back, because I keep my prayer journals, I'm gonna have to go back through my prayer journals to start checking off um, prayers that God has answered. I prayed about her friends years ago. I don't even think Savion had even started school, and I wrote prayers about having supported friends, and friends that go to church, and friends that that wouldn't influence her in a bad way. And she has this group of friends. Oh, I love them.
Yeah.
I love them. They are so supportive to her, with school stuff, with personal stuff. Like they don't ever try to stir her to do anything wrong. And I'm like, man, these
Yeah.
prayers are so powerful. So Of course, I prayed about her husband too, but that's that's
Yeah,
another
20
thing.
years from now,
And I
we
did.
will let that happen. 20 years from now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I yes, exactly. And I told her, I say, hey, listen, look, this is what it is.
Mm,
But yeah, she was like, Mom, you prayed for all that stuff. I said, girl, you don't even know
yeah.
all the stuff I prayed for.
And
But yeah,
and so I want folks to be clear, that being saved, being a Christian, being a churchgoer doesn't make you perfect. But we are works in progress, and there are things we intentionally do to build our faith walk. And I hear you, talk about that when you're teaching the young adult Sunday school class, co-teaching with Sister Zordana. And so
yeah.
I want to try and bring a little closure to this conversation by asking you, what do you see for yourself in the future? What are you working towards? What's coming up? Because you one of those, can't stop, won't stop kind of people. So what do you see for yourself in the future?
Honestly, I just see myself, doing more of what it is I'm doing now, serving, inspiring, teaching, growing myself. That's it. I mean, I can't pinpoint a thing. I can't say, I, I just see myself being used in a way that I could ever think. Like it's beyond what I can think. Because just when I thought it was just this, he does something else. And so I'm just whatever it is, it's gonna be whatever it is God wants it to be. That's
Yes,
it. Because I've learned over the years that my plans don't work. So I gotta
for sure, for sure. Yeah.
so this next line in my life, I want to walk in the purpose, the calling that He has for me.
Well, let
So
me
that's
say,
it.
on behalf of all of us, me who have had the pleasure of interviewing you, but certainly on behalf of those who are watching and I'm sure commenting even right now and sharing, thank you for being so transparent, and thank you for being willing to share just a part of this. Is about 10% of the whole story that you have to tell. And my prayer for you as your pastor is that God opens up more doors, puts you on more platforms, puts you in front of even more people to talk about these very things. And I don't know how he's going to do it, but I know that he's faithful to do it because you have something to share and something of value. As a woman, as a black woman, as a retired soldier, as a Christian, as a mom, as a sister. Like, you got so many layers that I think God is definitely going to utilize. Can you give some closing, some final encouragement to the person? I won't limit it to a woman, to the person who is depressed or bound by some experience in their past or something that they're currently wrestling with, because we that warfare is real. Can you just give some quick encouragement to them, and then we'll let you have the last word.
Um, the only thing I can think of is all things work together. They will work together for your good. Don't stay where you are. Get out of get out of this space. Get into God's presence. Get into His Word. Find you in the Bible, because you're in there. Your situation is in there. Your answer is in there. Because God, He makes a way out of everything that we go through. There's no such thing as a brick wall, because He's our way maker. So whatever it is that you're going through, He has a way out for you. You just got to get in His presence so He can tell you what to do.
That's amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, you have been watching another edition of Man Cave Monday. This has been Sergeant Retired Wileen Footman of Jacob Chapel Baptist Church, Tallahassee, Florida, capital city. all around amazing individual. Thank you so much for doing this. I really do appreciate it. Thank y'all for watching. Make sure you share this. Pick it up next week as well. We'll be back with another fantastic interview. But until we meet again, y'all, thank you for supporting this platform. And y'all follow Wileen. Go find her. She's on Facebook. I don't know if she's on any other platform, but wherever she is, y'all go and find her. She's dope. She's awesome. Thank you again for doing this, ma'am.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We'll see y'all real soon.